Thylacinus cynocephalus has one anatomical feature no living predatory mammal shares. Its lower jaw opens to nearly 90 degrees, more than twice the gape of any living canid. The feature was filmed once, in 1933, at a zoo in Hobart, 4 months before the last captive individual died on a concrete floor while its keeper forgot to let it inside. Nothing has been filmed since. No confirmation, no specimen, no track verified by a laboratory, only the 1933 footage and the absence. But sometime in the early 1970s, at the base of Pankaj Jaya, at an altitude of roughly 2,400 meters, a man named John Sarakang was sitting at the edge of a fire with a colleague when 2 animals walked out of the tree line. Dog-shaped, but not dogs. Tails rigid as bone, no flexion, pale bodies. And when the larger one opened its mouth, Sarakang stopped moving. Not because of the teeth, because of the depth of the opening. In 1960, fossilized remains of Thylacinus cynocephalus were excavated at Nombe, an archaeological site in the highlands of Papua New Guinea, and dated to approximately 4,500 years before present. In March 2023, Professor Barry Brook of the University of Tasmania published a study drawing on 1,237 thylacine sighting records, the most complete database ever assembled, and concluded that the official 1936 extinction date was premature. The animal most likely persisted in the remote wilderness of southwestern Tasmania until sometime between the late 1980s and the early 2000s. If Thylacinus cynocephalus survived in Tasmania for up to 6 decades after its death certificate was signed, on a 68,000 square kilometer island under active human surveillance, what does that imply for the island 200 kilometers to the north, where no bounty was ever offered, no systematic search was ever conducted, and where fossils of the same animal lie buried in the same mountains from which the reports keep coming? New Guinea is not a forest. It is a continent that folded inward on itself, compressed by tectonic collision into ridgelines that trap entire weather systems for weeks. It covers less than 0.5% of Earth's total land surface, but contains between 5 and 10% of the planet's known biodiversity. Of the island's 1,896 documented vertebrate species, approximately 64% exist nowhere else on Earth. 80% of its forest cover remains intact. The interior operates as a cascade of ecological enclosures. lying less than 300 kilometers from the Nombe fossil site. In 2016, the Indonesia Observer reported a sighting near the Karima, Oxaville, and Okibab Highland corridor of West Papua, the same category of terrain, remote and elevated, where accounts have clustered consistently since the 1970s. The pattern is not geographic coincidence. Every coherent report places the animal in the same habitat type, above 1,500 meters, low human traffic, cool montane terrain, across a region spanning more than 785,000 square kilometers, where systematic mammal surveys have barely begun. Not enough to confirm, not enough to dismiss. The plausibility is not speculative. It has verifiable layers. The Thylacine did not migrate to New Guinea. When sea levels dropped during glacial maxima, New Guinea and Australia formed a single continuous landmass called Sahul. The animal was already there before the separation. The Torres Strait formed approximately 8,000 years ago. Any divergence between a Tasmanian and a New Guinean population would have begun only at that point. An evolutionary interval too short to have meaningfully altered the morphology of a species whose anatomy remained stable across millions of years of prior fossil record. In Tasmania, the Thylacine survived despite a state-sponsored eradication campaign that between 1886 and 1909 produced at least 2,184 confirmed bounty payments for killed specimens. 2 decades of organized government-funded hunting with per-scalp compensation, and the animal still persisted. In New Guinea, none of that pressure was ever applied. The highlands were inaccessible to European settlers until the 1930s. No bounty was implemented. No government agency recorded its presence or its absence. The conditions that collapsed the Tasmanian population have never existed on the island, 200 kilometers to the north. The New Guinea Highland wild dog, Canis lupus dingo, the wild lineage from which the Australian dingo descends, was considered functionally absent from wild populations from 1976 onward. In 2016, a breeding population was photographed in the Star Mountains at elevations above 4,000 meters. 40 years of presumed absence. Same island, same terrain type. Same mechanism, absence of evidence produced entirely by absence of search effort. In December 1938, a fisherman named Hendrik Goosen brought to the port of East London, South Africa, a fish with blue scales and limb-like pectoral fins that no living biologist had ever seen. The species, Latimeria chalumnae, the coelacanth, was known only from Cretaceous fossil deposits, officially extinct for 66 million years. The biologists who had declared it gone were not wrong. They were simply working with data drawn from environments they could access. No one had looked in deep, cold, geologically isolated water. The absence was a category of ignorance, not a category of evidence. Brooks' 2023 study noted that more than half of the 1,237 evaluated thylacine records came from members of the general public, park rangers, hikers, farmers, not scientists, not people with access to academic publication channels. This is precisely the category of witness whose accounts have been accumulating in the New Guinea highlands for over 50 years. Hunters, missionaries, explorers operating entirely outside any institutional framework. All of them, across separate decades and separate valleys, describing the same rigid tail, the same extreme jaw gape, the same high-altitude habitat, the same rarity. If Thylacines cynocephalus could theoretically persist in the highlands of New Guinea, why has no physical evidence ever been documented? No confirmed photograph, no specimen, no verified track, no environmental DNA. The first part of the answer is statistical. Brooks' study concluded that, even in Tasmania, with an active multi-decade search effort, camera traps, dedicated research units, and formal government investigations, the probability of the thylacine persisting to the present day is less than 1%. The highest quality late-period sightings clustered within a narrow corridor of roughly 3,500 square kilometers of remote wilderness. In a territory that large, with a potential population that small, the probability of any survey team intersecting a living animal in any given season approaches 0. That is Tasmania, with roads, with researchers, with institutions that have been looking for nearly 90 years. New Guinea's relevant highland terrain covers 785,000 square kilometers, 11 times Tasmania's total surface area, without a single camera trap deployed at altitude. The second part is biological. In tropical montane environments, at high humidity and significant elevation, soft tissue degrades within days. Bone material. Absent the specialized preservation of cave deposits like Nambe, where the 4,500-year-old specimen survived under calcium carbonate accretion for millennia, dissolves in open terrain within decades. A dead thylacine in a New Guinea alpine marsh would leave no recoverable evidence within a generation of its death. The third part is political. The highland regions of West Papua, the Indonesian half of the island, where the majority of consistent thylacine reports originate, have been significantly restricted to outside researchers since the 1960s. Scientific access requires special permitting from Jakarta. Many applications are denied or go unprocessed for years. The single territory on Earth where a zoologist would have the best statistical argument for deploying a search is also the single territory where no zoologist has been permitted to look. The absence of physical evidence from New Guinea is not evidence of absence. It is the direct and measurable consequence of the fact that, by every metric that can be quantified, survey coverage, camera deployment, genetic sampling, institutional access, the region has not been searched. Somewhere in the Jayawijaya highlands, above 2,400 meters, the fire John Sarakan kept that night has long since gone cold. The two animals returned to the dark without leaving a track that any institution has confirmed. And the fossil remains from Nomba sit in a museum case, dated to 4,500 years before present, with a label that says, "It was here. It stopped being here. The matter is closed. The matter is not closed." An animal that survived undetected for up to 6 decades on a surveilled island, that existed in these same mountains at least 4,500 years ago, and whose only evidence of absence is the absence of any real attempt to find it. That animal was not declared extinct on the basis of evidence. It was declared extinct on the basis of silence. And silence in the least studied terrain on Earth can mean many things.